How many times have you thought, wow, while playing Red Dead Redemption 2? I personally lost count. At the very beginning I was like, wow, this snow feels so real. It was 2018, but game already looked better than many games nowadays. However, most of the time this wow effect was not about the graphics, it was about small unnoticeable details, like when Arthur slides on the ice, or milk pours out of a jar when you shoot it, or when an NPC eats food in a saloon. And this insane level of attention to details can be seen everywhere. Even after few thousand hours in both Red Dead Redemption 2 and Red Dead Online, I'm still finding something new, something that should not even be in the game. For example, cats can swim, and when they do it, they look really cute. But you might say, why shouldn't cats swim? They're not John Marston after all. Well, this is really impressive because normally cats don't swim in Red Dead Redemption 2, they don't go to the water voluntarily. I was chasing this cat for quite some time and shooting in the air until we reached the river, and then cat decided to cross it and start swimming. And it's definitely not something that players would normally do. So my point is, developers created insane amount of awesome details knowing that most players will not even see them. So when people ask me why am I still playing Red Dead Redemption 2 and Red Dead Online after so much time spent in the game, why don't I move on and leave the world of RDR2 behind? I usually give them my three main reasons, and the first one is related to all these awesome small details. And this reason is immersion. I've never played a game where world felt so alive. Whether you're robbing a bank or train, or hanging out with your gang members in a camp, or even simply riding your horse for no specific reason, it always feels so real, so believable. And it's true not only for Red Dead Redemption 2 story, Red Dead Online's world is also extremely immersive, which is rare for multiplayer games. Yes, it lacks content, fun activities, reasons to play on high levels, and it actually was abandoned completely by Rockstar years ago, but immersion is still there. Unless you're playing on PC obviously, because when cheater explodes you all the time, it's not that immersive. But on consoles or in a private lobby you can enjoy this beautiful world and pretty much nothing will distract you. And you know what, I've been thinking about it and came to conclusion that all these side activities in a story mode, all these interesting findings and stuff like that, for me personally is just an excuse to visit this beautiful world once again and enjoy it for a little bit more. And same applies to Red Dead Online. All this grind, all these roles, they never were the main reason why I'm playing this game, simply an excuses. Like, I don't really care about money that I can earn with collector role anymore, but I still enjoy searching for collectibles and getting full sets because it gives me a reason to visit beautiful places like this one, or this one, or this one, and many others. And I was always glad to see any new content, even if it's some pointless Telegram mission, because it always was a good reason for me to revisit World of Red Dead Redemption 2 and spend few more hours in it. Unfortunately, Rockstar decided to stop giving players such reasons, such excuses, but I'm still playing, just way less than I used to. And by the way, since we're talking about immersion, I just need to mention beautiful music and sound. And obviously voiced lines in the story mode, because in Red Dead Online our character is not speaking at all, and what NPCs are saying is usually not important at all, but in the story mode dialogues are so good that you don't want to miss them. Anyway, all this together, music, sounds and dialogues, creates different type of experience, and sometimes it really feels like you are in a classic western movie, especially since Rockstar made so many references to western movies in a story mode. And actually this feeling of being in a western movie is a second big reason why I'm still playing Red Dead Redemption. And basically it's nostalgia for the times when things were easier. It's actually personal, but I guess many of you will understand understand because you had somewhat of a similar experience. So when I was a kid, I really loved old Western movies. Maybe because there was not much of a choice. You see, I was born in USSR and it was kinda collapsing. Financial situation was not easy, and probably that's why in a cinema close to our house they were not showing any new movies, only old movies, and for some unknown reason mostly westerns. But you might say, what about TV? Well, it might be hard to understand for people from other countries, but there was only one channel. And again, if they were showing any movies, that were either Soviet movies or Hollywood classics, including a lot of westerns and gangster movies. So anyway, by the age of 7 years, I multiple times saw The Good, the Bad and the Ugly, Once Upon a Time in the West, and my favorite at that time, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. Obviously, since then I saw a lot of other western movies, and actually I have new favorites, but Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid have a special place in my heart. And by the way, it's obvious that it's one of the movies that Dan Houser took inspiration from when he was creating the story of Red Dead Redemption 2. But it's not even about the similarities in story or characters, it's overall vibe. Each time when I enter the world of Red Dead Redemption 2, I feel a little bit like a kid who somehow by some miracle got into the movie. Into all these movies at once actually, into this era. And this feeling is priceless. Okay, I hope I managed to explain my thoughts well, because you know there is a language barrier, but if I did, please let me know in the comments if you also have such feeling when playing Red Dead Redemption, at least sometimes. Anyway, let's move on. The third reason why I'm returning to the world of Red Dead Redemption again and again might sound weird to you, but don't worry, I will explain. It's gameplay loop, and you might say, what? It's boring. But I will disagree, because I always saw it as calming and relaxing. Doesn't matter if I'm helping one of gang members in a story mode, or hunting, or delivering moonshine in Red Dead Online, or searching for collectibles and treasure chests, or simply cooking meat. I never feel bored. And again, maybe it's because of high immersion of this world, but maybe these low intensity activities is just something that I need after a busy day. Probably that's why for countless hours I was doing this pretty simple and basic grind while listening to some podcast or music, or just enjoying the music in the game, which, as I already mentioned, is really amazing. And obviously I never listen to any podcast or other music while playing in a Red Dead Redemption 2 story mode, because yes, many missions would be like ride from point A to point B, do a little bit of shooting or some stealth there and then escape, which by many people is described as boring and outdated gameplay design. But for me, such activities were always something that required maximum of my attention and concentration, because if you traveling with a gang member, he or she will for sure tell you some interesting and important information, important for character and story development, and it's definitely something that you don't want to miss. And even if you travel alone, it's still better to pay attention and listen carefully, because otherwise you might miss some interesting random encounters and events around you. There is so much going on when you simply go in from point A to point B in Red Dead Redemption 2. In Red Dead Online, on the other hand, these random encounters and events are much less common, especially if you play in a public lobby, and in my opinion are much less interesting than in a story. No NPCs are sharing any interesting or important information, to be honest, and our protagonist is completely silent, and that's why it's okay to listen to something else while playing this game. I mean, it's quite possible that right now you are playing Red Dead Online and listening to this video. Let me know in the comments if it's true. But anyway, kids might call it a boring horse game, but it has this type of a gameplay that I was looking for. And by the way, if I'm in a different mood, there are high intensity missions in both Red Dead Redemption 2 and Red Dead Online with a lot of shooting. They require more concentration and might even be quite challenging, but to be honest, most most of the time I prefer these simpler meditative activities. By the way, if you enjoyed Red Dead Redemption 2 but never played Red Dead Online, I suggest you to at least give it a try. Yes, it was abandoned, yes, there are many problems, but the open world, amazing open world, is still there. And if you will decide to give Red Dead Online a try, I suggest you to go and check this video about the biggest mistakes that players are still making. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Stay safe, stay healthy, outlaws for life.